Hello everyone, welcome to week 4. This is going to be our last week of proper class because next week is going to be entirely devoted to you completing the final and also completing the student survey that I'm going to hand out to you that'll count as your participation grade. But for this week, what I'm going to have you do is, of course, listen to this lecture. Then there are going to be 2 practice exercises. One is going to be in how you search for information. The other is going to be in how you build a citation. And the link to the citation practice is going to include both an APA and an MLA option that you can choose between. What else is going on this week? It turns out that Thursdays from 1 to 3 was not a good option for me to choose to have my office hours this semester. So this week I'm unfortunately going to have to change them again, and they are going to still be on Thursday, but they're going to be 3 to 5 p.m. this week, and I have that in bold right here at the top. Please feel free to come on, and I'd be happy to talk with you. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the final, about catching up with any assignments, what have you. Let's see, what else do we got going on? There's of course going to be an assignment of 4 to go with week 4. This one is going to be building your either your works cited page or your references list, depending on which format that you're going with. And I'm actually going to take us to that now. So this is an example of a very, very short reference list that is in the APA format. And I'm going to be covering both APA and MLA in this single lecture, so pay attention even if you're not focused on this particular format. So when you do the APA reference list, you are always going to have references bolded at the top and centered like this. Otherwise, you're going to follow the method of citation that we learned about last week. If you have any questions about that, also feel free to reach out and contact me. I'm very happy to answer any questions that you might have about it. I've gone with one of the articles that came up when we were doing the discovery search, and I think when we were also in EBSCOhost, and I also went with that mermaid book that I'm so enamored with. So these citations are done and they're correct. You're going to note that this is all double spaced, and what we have going on is called a hanging indent underneath. So for the first line for any entry in your references list, it is going to be flush against the outermost parameter of the page, and then the rest are going to be indented by about 1 tab length, but you're not going to be using the tab feature. So I'm going to take us over to the MLA works cited example, and for here you're also going to have it double spaced. You're going to have works cited instead of references in the center on top, and you are not going to bold this. And for this one we're going to highlight everything, and right now we're in Google Docs, so what I'm going to have you do is go up to Format. You're going to go to Align and Indent, Indentation Options, and you are going to select Hanging and Apply. And that is automatically going to apply the hanging indents to your works cited page. And similarly, you can do the same thing when you're in a Word document. This is the MLA example. If you go to the APA, you will again highlight it. And we're going to go home. We're going to expand the paragraph section, and we're going to go to the special drop-down menu, select hanging, hit OK, et voila. I'm going to save that. And I'm still using all these same citations across the board, but one thing that I want to share with you is that while you can, and I do strongly encourage you to be creating these citations yourselves so that you get a handle on how they're done. For example, in the MLA, you know that you're going to have for a book the author's name first, last name, first name, and then because there are 3 authors with this et al., the title of the book, the press or the publisher, and then the year. I want you to understand that this is the same format that's repeated again and again and again and again for books. Likewise with the article, you're always going to have the same author, last name, first name, title, journal, volume, number of volume, when it was published, page numbers, and in this case, because I accessed it from EBSCOhost, that as well as the DOI. And again, APA is going to have its own way of doing things, last name, first name, as per usual, but then it goes to date, goes to title, and then depending on whether or not you're citing an article or a book, the information is going to change from there. It's despite these being two different formats that present the information in different ways, usually it's all still going to be the exact same information, just put slightly out of order depending on how you're doing it. But what I want, so I do want you to get the practice of making these yourselves, like I made these. But I also want to give you a few tools that you can use so that you could potentially make it a bit easier on yourself and a bit faster for you to be able to create these references. And one of them is going to be the citation machine. One thing you will immediately note is that this page is covered in ads, and you're actually going to see Citation Machine as an ad itself a lot on Purdue OWL. So when you're making your own references and or citations, and you're using Purdue OWL to check the format, whether or not you're doing this right, how do you handle when there are editors and such, then you're going to see some advertisements for Citation Machine. Citation Machine is technically a free resource, but one thing that you're going to notice is, again, the ads, but also after you do your first citation or so, after that, they're going to start making you watch ads before you can create any further citations. And the same is going to be true of EasyBib. Again, you have a bunch of ads, and you might know already that some of the colors and the text are the same between these two, because this is a Chegg service. This is also a Chegg service, and depending on which one you go through, it's going to be asking you to put in the exact same information in the exact same manner. So it's up to you whether you want to use the Citation Machine or EasyBib. We are going to go with Citation Machine, and we are going to create a citation. And we're still going to stick to those two sources that I'm working with. We're going to start with the Mermaid book first. And I have that information up over here, and I'm just going to copy and paste this. And I could also put the ISBN number in here, but the title works. So we've done that. And that's who I'm looking for. That's the publisher, that's the date, that's what I want to cite. So I can go ahead and click on that. See, it's going to be showing you options for, is this actually what you're looking for? And you can say yes, and they're already going to have a bunch of information that they're going to supply for you. And all of that is correct, except for the missing colon here, which is going to be important. We're going to continue, scroll down, and for the purposes of this, I am citing the whole book, but you can change that as needed. Those are the correct names in the order that they're presented. So one thing that I do want to point out is that when you're making your references or works cited page, you are going to have everything listed in alphabetical order. So it doesn't matter that this is a journal article and it doesn't matter that this is a book, because this was written by Mohulatsi and this was written by Mueller. They're still going to be in that alphabetical order. But also note that because Mueller was the first person listed as an author, here and here and also on the publisher's page, we're going to have Mueller's name first, even though Hall's is technically the alphabetical one. There would be first alphabetically. So you want to retain the order that the authors are presented in, even if that itself is not alphabetical order. And then when you're creating the full list, that is when the alphabetical order comes into play. So that is all correct, and I do want to come in here and I want to put that colon in there. Otherwise, because they're putting the city in there anyway. Because this is something that was published after 1900, we don't necessarily need to know about the city that this was published in. If it's a source that you're citing that's before 1900, you do need to include that in the latest edition of the, in this case, what is it? Well, if you're doing the MLA format, you need to include that. But otherwise, it has all the information that I do need for that. It has authors, has title, publisher, unnecessary city, and the year. Complete the citation. And okay, we're gonna, it automatically went to APA 7. And That is perfect. It's exactly what I need. But what you can also do is from this menu here, you can select the MLA 9th edition. And this is also a correct way of citing that information. So it's easy to switch between these two as needed. Please do note that they have older versions of both of these formats in here. They have the MLA 8th edition and APA 6th edition. Always be careful that you're choosing the most current edition, unless you're specifically asked otherwise by your professor. So that's great. We have that citation. I can copy this and I can put it into my document if I want to. Another nice thing about this particular website is that I can continue creating citations and it will essentially build my works cited page for me. Again, we're going to be working with a bunch of the ads around here, and we're also going to be eventually forced to watch some ads, but we're going to create a citation for that journal article. And it is asking for title or DOI. I've done this by the title of the journal with the article that I'm attempting to cite at the moment. I haven't done it by DOI, so I'm going to try that first. I don't care for that slash being in there. I think that's going to mess things up. Let's try this. No, it brings it up immediately. Fantastic. Okay, so if you can, go with the DOI. But if not, I do want to show you what happens when I go with just the name of the journal. So we're dealing with the Journal of African Cultural Studies. Is that? Journal of African Cultural Studies, we're going to cite that. Continue. And this is something that you're going to find when you are working with a lot of the other sources that you come across. Sometimes you can put the DOI directly in there and it's immediately going to come up with the article that you're looking for. Otherwise, not necessarily, and that's when you're going to have to start filling out the information just as you would if you were having to build the citation yourself. So let's go ahead and do that. We have, Mohulatsi. Mohulatsi and first name Volume, issue series. This is volume 35, issue 1. Not part of the series. It was published March 2023. And it goes from pages 121 to 133. It's 133. That's all the information that I need. Let's try completing the citation. And so we have this, I forgot to put in the article title, my bad. There we are. Copy and paste that in there. Now we'll update that citation. And that is more or less a correct citation, except that it's changed the name of the journal from Journal of African Cultural Studies to African Studies Companion Online. And that is not what I want. And I do already have the information over here, so I can easily change that on my own, but I do want to use this opportunity to emphasize that you always have to be double checking that these citation generators are actually generating correct citations, because this would not cut it. Okay. And in line with that, what I want to do is show off, we are currently in the discovery search, and that's where I have this article pulled up, and they have their own convenient cite tool. So once we've clicked on that, it is going to give you a list of references according to the format that you're interested in. So there we have the APA 7th edition for this article, and it's correct. So one can easily just copy this and paste it into their Works Cited page. Scrolling down, you're also going to have the MLA 9th edition in there, and it is also correct. So one can just copy and paste that and you're good. But I do want to show how we have this mermaid book. We can do the exact same thing. And so we're going to scroll down. I already have the cite tool initiated. And we run into a problem with this because the information that we have down here is what's being converted into the information that goes into the citation. And it is specifically noting how Axel Mueller is professor in mineralogy and petrology. But it is, where is it? Sorry. It is including that here as part of the citation, and that is not something that we include in APA style citations. I don't think it's included in most citation styles. Furthermore, it is not listing the other two authors until later, and again, it's including that's a professor in applied mineralogy, and it's also calling them both editors. And when I scroll down, I see that they are listed as other authors, which, fair enough, they are also authors. When I'm in the catalog, Tuzzy's catalog, where I initially found this, it also lists them as added authors, but it also lists them up here as actual authors. And furthermore, when I go to the publishers page, it has them listed on the cover just as authors, and it furthermore has them listed under the authors tab that they have here. So I'm not seeing any indication that they are editors. So that is not correct, which means that I need to be building this citation from scratch with the correction that these are not editors, and that neither Mueller nor Halls need to have their the fact that they're professors in mineralogy included. And the same thing goes for the MLA 9th edition. They are including unnecessary information and they're listing authors as editors. So that needs to be fixed before I can move on. Okay, so we've tackled that. We'll tidy up a little bit so I'm not jumping from tab to tab quite so much. We have that Works Cited page from the citation machine. They did not make me watch another ad, but again, that's something that I want you to look out for. It has the potential to both save and cost you time to use citation generators. So figure out what works best for you, but always please be sure that you're verifying that the correct information is being included in the correct manner every time you use one of these. And let's see, I'm going to have a folder with these citation generators available to you in this week's materials. So you have the citation machine, you have easybid.com, which again, these two are practically the same thing. And then there's Zotero. Zotero is a software that you can download to your computer, and you can also install it in the browser that you're using, and you're going to end up with a little button up here next to your downloads and favorites and other menu things here. And so when you're potentially searching online and you're finding resources that you want to include in your research, then you can hit that button and it is going to download to the application that you have already installed on your computer. And you can set it up so that it downloads to a specific folder depending on which specific research that you're doing. It can help you in generating citations from the information that it's pulling when it's doing that. And I would say that this is a really good tool if you're doing something on the scale of a thesis. For what we're doing in this class, I don't think that the power essentially that's behind this particular tool, the memory or any of that is quite necessary, because by the end of this week you're going to be citing 4 to 5 sources maximum. But when you're doing a thesis, something that's requiring 15, 20 or more sources to back up what you're writing about, then that is when Zotero can potentially be a strong ally for you. Right. So we are going to take a slight detour and talk about citing elders and oral teachings. Because I know that I've used the example of a friend telling a friend as an example of maybe this is not the best way to be getting information that's reliable, but I want to emphasize that there is a difference between colloquial passing information along, like this is not necessarily super important information, but it is nevertheless information, as opposed to long-lasting oral traditions that have been used by multiple cultures all over the globe to pass down stories and history and lessons that are important to building culture, but also to building knowledge around things. So I am also going to have you this week go through this link to the Indigenous Information Literacy series of lectures that has been put together by, come on now, let's see, this is Kansas, I think? Well, Rachel Chong has put this together, and as you can see, there are a bunch of related media that's in the side here. I want you to go through as many of these as possible. You'll see that there's a specific video on how to cite information passed down through elders in the MLA format, APA format as well. And I want to make sure that you have this information because we are a tribal college and this is something that could potentially be useful depending on the things that you're researching. I also want to highlight that here at Tuzzy, but also next door at the Inupiat Heritage Center, where we have a lot of resources, including recordings made by elders that are being preserved and sometimes translated here at the library, and I believe also over the Inupiat Heritage Center, but don't quote me on that because that is not something that I have authority to speak on. Let's see. And I've included other ways that you can cite elders and Indigenous oral teachings here. As part of your assignment for this week, there's going to be a bonus question where you can earn up to an extra 25 points if you find an instance of someone passing along knowledge in this oral tradition. But a lot of the times that you find that stuff, it's usually going to be through, for example, a YouTube video. And if you use that, that's fine. I would specifically ask you, however, to cite it as if this person was directly telling this information to you, as opposed to citing it as a YouTube video, just for the purposes of the spirit of this particular exercise. All right, what else do we want to talk about? In addition to making sure that you have information about Indigenous information literacy and oral teachings, I also want to highlight our Inupiat and Arctic resources that we have available on Tuzzy's website. And this is going to be a lot of information, and this is also potentially where you can find some stuff that you can use for that bonus point question. Where you're going to have a lot of stuff related to the Arctic, you're going to have a lot of stuff related to the local area, the local people, the local culture. And there is going to be one particular question that is required for the assignment and is not a bonus question that is going to ask you to go through these resources and find something that is related to the research that you've been collecting sources for this week. I believe that is everything that I wanted to show you in this lecture. So I'm going to bring you to our to-do list, or rather your to-do list for this week. So like I said, you're going to start by watching this lecture, which you've done. To gain participation points, I want you to do the practice activities that are going to be there for you that I mentioned earlier in the lecture. I do want you to play around a bit with the citation generators and also go through that Indigenous information literacy video series that I showed you just a moment ago. Get familiar with that enough that even if you can't do it off the top of your head, you know where you can go to find information on how to cite oral teachings or how to generate citations through one of the tools that I introduced you to. Again, we're going to have office hours this Thursday from 3 to 5, and those are always optional, and I'm also happy to come up with another time to meet with you via Zoom, and there's always email and phone if need be. I only have one video in the supplementary folder at the moment. I don't think I'll be expanding that by the time this lecture gets up, but it's an interesting one on how misinformation ends up getting spread, as related to citations. And then I'll have you complete assignment 4 by 11:59 p.m. this coming Sunday. And the Friday before that, I will make sure that that final is posted by noon, and you're going to have the full week to work on that. It is going to be due, let's see, not Friday. It is going to be due by 11:59 p.m. Friday the 22nd. I believe that is everything. Again, please reach out if you have any questions, but otherwise I'll have one final short lecture next week. And until then, do your best. I'm enjoying getting to go through the work that you're doing so far. You have a wonderful array of topics that you've been researching for this class. And I'm very happy and excited to see what you come up with for your works cited pages. Okay, bye.